Hi, welcome back to my YouTube channel. By now you all know me, but if not, my name is Mario. So today's video is a clinical research video, and it is going to be how to be successful in your clinical research associate or CRA job. I came up with 5 things that I think are critical in order to be successful. The reason for this video is several of you have emailed me saying thank you very much for your interview videos on YouTube. I've came across them. I was super successful at my interviews, and now I have my first job. So, where do you go from there? What are some of the things that you need to do in order to be successful? That's what I'll cover in this video. Before I jump into that, I want to remind you to please smash that like button and subscribe to my channel if you haven't done so already. I do appreciate all of you that have already subscribed. So without further ado, these are 5 things in no particular order that you need in order to be successful as a clinical research associate. I'll try not to talk too much about each point, just really make the highlights of each one. So the first thing you need to do is communicate effectively. This is true at every level and with everyone you interact with. So as a CRA, you'll be dealing with your clinical trial manager or CTM. You'll be dealing with your line manager. You'll be dealing with study coordinators. You'll be dealing with physicians. You'll be dealing with nurses. You'll be dealing with auditors. There are tons and tons of people you interact with, and effective communications key. Make sure you know what you want to communicate and how to summarize it and be succinct and clear. For example, say you have a site that's not responding to queries, know to reach out to the study coordinator. So what I like to do is first shoot out an email to the study coordinator and say, hey, here are the queries. This is the date I'd like you to respond to them. Let me know if you have any questions, and just acknowledge that this can be done, or if you need additional time, just let me know when you might realistically get around to answering queries. Let's say that the site doesn't respond, then I would follow up with another message and say, hey, can you tell me the status? If the site still doesn't respond, then I'd pick up the telephone and call the site and try to speak to the study coordinator. But each time I'm clearly saying, this is what I'm calling you about. This is when I want it done by. This is what deadline we're aiming for. I'm available to you. I'm happy to sit and answer queries with you and help you through the process. Just let me know what's needed in order to be successful. Now, if you're doing what I said last and making that phone call, this is what separates mediocre CRAs from really good CRAs. If you make that phone call, you should immediately be documenting that telephone contact report. You should go to your system and say, this is the date I called, this is the time I called, this is who I spoke with, or even if you attempted to call the site but couldn't speak with anyone, if you've spoke with someone, who did you speak with, what's the summary of the call, and what are what's the outcome of the call? The site said, hey, I'll respond to queries by X date, or I need additional time, or we have staffing shortages, whatever they said. And that will set you apart, because I can't tell you how many times I go to a new site that has transitioned to me. I look at telephone contact reports, and the CRA has documented 0, and it's pretty unusual to never call a site. Now, you might be with a site, and I've had one where they say, don't really call us, send us everything by email, and we will respond instantaneously. So that particular site usually would respond within the hour to anything sent to them. But that's unusual. Most of the times you are picking up the phone and at least having a few conversations throughout the duration of the study with the study coordinator, or possibly with the PI, or with the relevant stakeholder. So like I said, I'm not going to drill too much into these. So number 1 is effective communication. The next thing that I have here is attention to detail. And I'll just tell you a very quick story of something that I saw and show you why you would be set apart from the mediocre CRA to be an excellent one. And it's with temperature logs. So I went out with another CRA and I asked them, hey, did you look at the temperature logs? And the CRA said, and much to my disbelief was, oh, I collected the temperature logs. I don't look at every single day. So basically says I don't really look at the temperature logs that closely. And the rationale there was that the site should be picking up on temperature excursions and that the only job of the CRA is to collect the temperature logs for the TMF. And this is absolute garbage, that the CRA should be looking through every single line, every single day, looking for those temperature excursions, because guess what? It's your job to double check, and sites may miss temperature excursions. You do not want to also miss it, because if the site missed it, you missed it. This is big problem, because they might be using IP that's out of range, or investigational product that's out of the temperature range. For those of you that don't know, if an investigational product is out of temperature range, you need to notify the sponsor and figure out instructions. So sometimes they'll tell you, hey, it was out of range for only a short duration, it can still be used. Or sometimes they'll tell you, quarantine it and destroy it, and please don't use it. So you need to be paying super close attention to details. So temperature logs was just an example. This is also true of data review, source data verification. You need to make sure that you are looking through EMR or site source and making sure everything in EDC matches up. And this is also true in the investigator site files, which you need to make sure that all the documents are there and they're current, etc. So that's my tip here. Pay close attention to the details and don't just assume that the site did it right. Your job is to double check, make sure that everything was done right. As in, if you were asked in isolation, were there any temperature excursions? You're not relying on the site to have picked it up. You're also checking for it. All right, so next on my list, and this sort of goes a little bit with attention to detail, but it's really to be organized and have organizational skills. The more organized you are, the better you'll do as a clinical research associate. And the reason I say this is clinical research associates do a ton of different things. And the best way to do different things is to have your system in place that you always follow. And here's a few examples. So I'll take different scenarios. So what I've noticed is what works for me best is, as soon as I arrive at a site, I ask for the reg binder and sign the site visit log. I usually do this as the first thing on any visit I go to. So I almost don't start my visit until I've signed the site visit log. So guess what? I have never not signed a site visit log. I've picked up several monitoring visit reports from different CRAs, reviewing them, and it says, oh, we forgot to sign the site visit log. If you had a system in place, you wouldn't be forgetting to sign the site visit log. I don't start monitoring until I've signed it. So I don't miss it, because I wouldn't start my monitoring visit until it's signed. That's an example from site visit logs and my visits to sites. Now, regulatory binders, I have my system in place. I have an Excel spreadsheet that I keep for each site. On my Excel spreadsheet, I list everyone that's on the delegation log. I make note if they're on the 1572. I make note of the dates of expirations of medical licenses, GCP, IATA. So I have my system in place that works for me, that I can track reg docs, and I could actually tell you right now if one of my sites has an expiring document. As a matter of fact, I emailed a site to say, hey, per my regulatory tracking document, you may have a medical license for this person that's expiring at the end of this month. Please check and send me an updated medical license. Again, this will really set you apart, because the number of CRAs out there that have real-time data for a site is minuscule. I keep seeing different CRAs out there that just come look through the ISF in some disorganized fashion. I don't understand their system because they don't have a system. And then I say, were the documents there? They don't know. And this is just not really acceptable. You should have your system. You need to have your way of going about a monitoring visit. And I can put out a video on how I specifically go about monitoring visits. It's very organized, systematic. I keep different trackers for certain things. For subjects, I have a notebook where I'll write down what visits I reviewed. For regulatory, I have my Excel spreadsheet that I track documents on. Then I have a color coding system to tell me if something is expiring before I would be at the next monitoring visit. So for example, I knew this medical license was expiring despite the fact that I don't have a visit until after it already expires. And just have your systems in place. So my regulatory document tracker also includes a field that says, is this in the trial master file? Yes, no. And that puts me in the top echelon of clinical research associates. And that's just so simple. It's just organization. That's all that it comes down to. And anybody can do it, but the number of people that actually do it, like I said, is a tiny fraction of clinical research associates out there. All right, so the next thing on my list is clinical research knowledge. This is also something that'll set you apart. As you may know if you're a regular viewer of my videos, I often quote the regulations, so I know different sections of ICH off the top of my head, ICH GCP. I know various different topics that cover the spectrum of clinical research. So I can talk about anything clinical research with knowledge from the top of my head. So things like the basics, the Declaration of Helsinki, the Belmont Report, etc. Those are just the basic documents in clinical research. I also can go in more in depth and say, hey, ICH GCP section X states about this, and I think I talked about section 5.18 in my last video, which is specific to monitoring. So things like that. There's a couple of things you can do depending on your experience level. First, know all the basics. This will be coming as part of a GCP course or City, or there are some free ones out there that you could probably take and just learn a little bit about the basics of clinical research. One of the things that has helped me the most is basically treating the regulations like bedtime reading. So I, for the longest time when I started my CRA career, I had the Barnett book, which is the question and answers on ICH GCP. It goes into depth of different scenarios, and it actually gets from easy to complex, and it's a great book to have. And I read that as my bedtime read for years, and I have been considering getting the latest copy. I currently go online and just read straight out of the regulations. But one of the nice things about the Barnett book is there's the explanation of the regulations. Oftentimes, just reading the straight regulations is not super clear because they're not super in depth. But a book like Barnett, where they discuss them, it could be helpful if you're starting out your career, and to be honest, would be helpful to me today because the regulations change. The regulations keep being updated. So stay on top of the regulations, and also stay on top of different changes that come out, and different areas that you may be weak on and need to learn more. So I think really what I'm trying to get at here is have clinical research knowledge. All right, the final thing that I'm going to talk about here is something that hopefully most of you already have to some extent, and that is computer skills. Good computer skills will also set you apart. For example, I have become the de facto person that people go to for our CTMS system, just because I spent a lot of time learning how to use the CTMS system, and it's not intuitive at all. So learn how to use your CTMS system, your TMF system, your EDC system. And not only do you need to know how to use all these systems, but also know the basics. Try to improve your skills in Word, Excel, PowerPoint. All of this will help you out tremendously as you try to move up the ladder. So you may need to create a lot of PowerPoint presentations. You may need to build out Excel spreadsheets to do various things. Those things all come in handy. Same with Word documents and needing to draft different documents for studies, maybe are put in charge of writing the clinical monitoring plan, and you'd put that in a Word document, and knowing how to format tables, etc., easily would be super helpful. So those are my tips on how to be successful as a clinical research associate. As always, a quick recap. So the first thing that I covered was effective communication. The second thing that I covered was attention to detail. The third thing was your organizational skills. The fourth thing is your clinical research knowledge. And finally, your computer skills. If you have all that down pat, you will have no problem with the day-to-day aspects of being a clinical research associate. The other bonus that I'll add, if you're traveling, and I use the term clinical research associate and monitor interchangeably, but there's a difference in that some clinical research associates don't actually travel. Monitors do, because you go out and monitor the sites. So while I use them interchangeably, some job descriptions may list clinical research associate for a position other than monitoring. You might be a sponsor side CRA that doesn't travel and does more project management, or you may be an in-house CRA, etc. So if you're monitoring, my bonus tip is get very familiar with travel. Know what airlines you want to fly, who goes where, what sites are easy to get to, etc. So that is my bonus tip. If you want to stay with Marriott's, if you want to stay with Hilton's, if you want to fly United, Delta, American, Southwest, pros and cons, etc. So I will end there. As always, thank you all for your support. Just a quick reminder, smash that like button and subscribe to my channel if you haven't done so already. The more subscribers I get, the more videos I'll create. And the more videos I create, the happier you'll be, the happier I'll be. And we will all learn about clinical research together. All right, on that note, I will end here. Thank you for watching.